Hello and welcome from wherever you may be joining today. I appreciate you taking the time to spend about 10 minutes with me here today as you get to step into the lab and get a little introduction into GitLab CICD. We'll get right into it for the sake of time. My name is Parker Ennis. I'm a product marketing manager here at GitLab, and my focus is on CI and CD. Personal passion and professional passion, and just have a lot of gratitude for being able to be here and talk to you today. We'll go over who we are briefly at GitLab, dive into CI/CD a little bit with a double click into continuous delivery and GitOps, and then we'll close out for the day. So we're known here at GitLab for our complete DevOps platform delivered as a single application. And I also like to note our mission, and that's to change all creative work from read-only to read-write, so that everyone can contribute. We are open, we are transparent, and we're a collaborative community building software together. And definitely welcome you to take part and look into this more if you're not familiar. With GitLab, you get everything you need to deliver your software better and faster, right? A single interface, a single data model, and one process to permission, govern, and secure your IP and your applications. So let's get right into it. A little look at GitLab CICD to set the stage. So we've got automation at the center of DevOps, and CI/CD is a really, really important part of DevOps, right? Build automation, testing automation, deployment automation. All those things really do go a long way in making up what we think of as CI/CD today. And CI/CD has evolved quite a bit from when it was just CI in the mid-90s, right? And the phrase was coined, where developers would spend a long period of time, weeks or months, working on a project, and then they would try to integrate all that work at once. And it resulted in conflict, pain, and wasted time, right? So we moved beyond these basics of vanilla CI. I think it's awesome to see how we've extended that automation further and further right if you look at the SDLC as a left to right kind of thing. And making sure that we're automating our deployments and our releases and utilizing things we have in the world like microservices and these cloud providers, et cetera. But enough of the little historical lesson, right? That's just a passion of mine. What I really want to point out at the highest level is these goals that you see on the screen, right? And how important they are to your business and in your day-to-day if you're a developer, writing code and working on developing features. The other thing I want to point out is the diagram over on the right, GitLab flow. And that's our opinionated take on how DevOps should work for the entire lifecycle, which we cover at GitLab. Of course, CI/CD plays an instrumental role all the way from when you're creating your issue to committing changes on a feature branch, or you're running automated builds and tests, reviewing those changes and getting the feedback, right? Then what do we want to do? Something like preview our changes and then push in production once we know everything's okay, right? It's a very basic, kind of scattered way to look at it, but these are all like building blocks of how to make developers' lives easier and organizations get the value into the hands of customers sooner. And in our opinion, to take on this GitLab flow is based on the fact that we want to unify teams and leverage that automation and the best practices so that you can deliver better software faster. And so in the past, where we may have had something like a need for a PhD in tools and automation, you had reactive teams, you had plug-in pain and suffering, right? And fragility at any scale when you're trying to execute these workloads. Now you have rock solid CI/CD with the automation built in with GitLab. You've got no complex plug-in ecosystem or messy integrations needed. And you can scale these resources on demand. And there's a lot of power in that for every part of the business. And so what if we double click into continuous delivery? How are we going to automate the release or the deployment side of the house? I think of three big pillars here when I think of continuous delivery with GitLab. Unified deployment and monitoring strategies. So the ability to visualize what's going into production. What are you deploying? Where are you deploying? And then who are you deploying it to? But also monitoring the performance of your deployments and having that ability to roll back based on performance and those insights, all in one place, a single application. I also think of that automated and integrated continuous delivery at a more holistic scale, right? Like simplifying and accelerating delivery with that complete delivery pipeline right out of the box, instead of having to spend all that time and manual work and effort to just get to a place where you can get to your first green pipeline. And also something like dashboards that are embedded or integrated into the product that span across your whole CI/CD pipeline, so you can see status, know the health of your deployments and environments, and then visualize all those things very easily. And also think of any cloud, anytime, anywhere, right? So not just multi-cloud deployment, right? No favoritism, ultimate flexibility is what I think of with GitLab, and we support deployments of your applications to multiple different targets, whether it's virtual machines, Kubernetes clusters, which have a inherently higher learning or steep learning curve, right? Or various cloud providers like the ones we hear about all the time, AWS, Azure, GCP, amongst others. So it's really important to think about, pre-production, post-production, and how we're leveraging that automation, these best practices to be more efficient, to make sure we're assuring performance. Then I'd like to double click on some of the advanced deployments and what James Governor back in 2019, the founder of Redmond, coined as progressive delivery. He said that progressive delivery ensures the strength and flexibility of a system through numerous creative experimentations. And we hear a lot nowadays about developer experimentation and developer experiment, or developer experience. And good thing GitLab excels and empowering developers to be their best, right? But at the end of the day, I think of it as we want to ship faster and in smaller increments, right? It all goes back to those building blocks of CI. So let's explore some of these strategies, right? Whether it's incremental rollouts, which are supported to roll out changes to your application with the ability to release those production changes only to a portion of your Kubernetes pods and mitigate that risk. You can do that by manually triggering or timing those rollouts. And those timed rollouts behave in a similar way, right? Except that each job is defined with a delay in X amount of minutes, for example, before it deploys, right? Giving you more control over how you deliver and when. And then blue-green, right? It's also known as A/B deployments or red-black deployments, a similar technique and pretty popular these days still. To reduce that risk of downtime and overall mitigation of risk when you're deploying. And so you can combine that with something like incremental rollouts and minimize the impact of a potential issue growing and getting bigger. And then canary deployments, one of the most popular for sure, where a small portion of your fleet or your servers is updated to the newest version first and foremost. And then, this subset or the canaries is then tested and rolled out to the rest of the fleet. So there's an early indication of any danger, if it would be there. And then I also wanted to touch on feature flags, right? I can't talk about everything, and everything's not included on the page, but feature flags are important. They could be used to enable a feature to be tested even before it's completed or ready for release, right? Be able to move fast, iterate. These are things we need to be able to do. You can use a feature flag to hide, enable, or disable a feature during runtime. And then the unfinished features are hidden, they're toggled, so they don't appear in the UI. This allows for smaller incremental versions of software to be delivered without that cost of constant branching and merging. You see these similar concepts coming up often, right? Iteration, small chunks, move faster. And I like to think of feature flags as like canary for features, right? Allowing you to roll out those features gradually, slowly, and exposing features. And all of these are things that GitLab CICD can provide, and that we're working to always improve and continuously improve and add more feature functionality or expand upon what exists. And then, of course, a plug for Dora, right? Very popular today. We've got 1 out of the 4 live right now with lead time for changes. As you can see, they are planned for our June 22nd major release of GitLab 14.0. And then the other 2 are on the roadmap. And so I encourage you to check out that link where it says "and plenty more" if you're curious about more details. Finally, got about a couple minutes, a little under 2 minutes left for GitOps. What is it? Right? There are 3 components that I want to talk about: the infrastructure as code, plus merge requests, plus CI/CD. But first, the definition. It's not a single product or plugin or platform, right? GitOps workflows are something that help teams manage IT infrastructure through processes they already use in application development and best practices at that, such as version control, collaboration, compliance, and CI/CD. And it applies these things to infrastructure automation. So when you think infrastructure as code, GitOps goes far beyond that. It's almost like XAC instead of IAC. Everything is code. The infrastructure, config, policy, basically any operation that's defined as code. And there's a lot of power in storing the desired state that you'd like in Git and having that version control. And then merge requests. These are our agents of change, right? Also known as a pull request in other areas, or change requests if you'd like. But we call them merge requests here at GitLab. And that's essentially our audit trail of what was changed, what, and where, right? Many can contribute. It's giving you that gating and that collaborative feel. And you've got a single source of truth. And then let's transition to CI/CD very, very quickly. How do we reconcile IAC and GitOps, right? If GitOps is automating the infrastructure and updates using a Git workflow, that new code comes in, is merged, and the CI/CD pipeline enacts that change in an environment. So any configuration drift, et cetera, getting in front of the things that you need to worry about, that happens. But GitOps is very different than IAC because there's no version control requirement with just infrastructure as code. It lacks the change approvals, and the automation isn't necessarily mandated. So we like to think of GitOps as infrastructure as code done right. And I wish I had more time to go into it, but that's all we have time for today. So I encourage you to check it out, some resources, which you can find right here when this is distributed. And please do reach out to me. I could talk about this for hours, but I really appreciate your time. I hope you're staying safe, happy, and healthy. And I'd love to hear from you. You can see in the bottom right there my email, or reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we can dive into any of this more if you'd like. Take care.